tigerslashII here, and today I wanted to talk about the Dark Eldar Scourges. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is they're one of the more Dark Eldar models. They pretty much epitomize the entire Dark Eldar gestalt of playstyle. First though, I want to talk about the models themselves. Now, there's actually two kinds of Dark Eldar Scourge models. You're going to find these probably on the store shelves of your local hobby shop, and these are the new Dark Eldar models that came out around 5th edition. And as you can see, they're very, very well detailed. I'm particularly fond of the heads. I will actually buy Scourges just because I want the bits that come with them. They come with so many extra bits, and they all look absolutely fabulous. You got the little pipes running behind there to fuel the extra muscles the homunculi implanted to get those wings working for him. And of course, all the different weapon varieties they come with, and just the texture on the wings, I think it's fabulous. But then if you go looking around on eBay, you will find models that look more like this. These are the old 3rd edition Scourges, and as you can see, they're quite a bit chunkier. I haven't finished the paint job on this guy yet, so he looks particularly rough. But actually, I got another one here. I actually prefer, when I run my Scourges, to run these guys. And the reason for that, I'll explain in a minute, but as you can see, they've got the classic old heavy metal mohawk going on. They got the jet engine jump packs and very thick armor plates, very thick model, very top heavy too. There's not a lot holding that on there. Now, the reason that these guys look so chunky is because back in 3rd edition, when these guys came out, they were actually a heavy support option. Scourges, well, Dark Eldar is a whole race. We're pretty much, as an army, we're designed to be like a spin-off of the Eldar. So these guys filled the role of the Swooping Hawks and the Dark Reapers at the same time, depending how you kitted them out. And much like the Dark Reapers, they occupied a heavy support slot. That guy again. So you could equip them for close combat, you could equip them to basically fire lots of small arms fire with their shard carbines, or you could have them be heavy weapon squads and stand in one place from, the backfield and fire lots of shots. What changed in 5th edition and now in 7th edition is they got shifted to fast attacks. So when that happened, they lost the chunky armor, they lost the flamboyant, heavy metal style, and they went in a different flamboyant direction. Different flamboyant direction with just very precise. This is probably some of the better work I've seen GW do, especially on their plastic models. These are only $25 a box. $25, you got yourself a very nice fast attack slot with so many extra bits that you can play with. I personally think these guys represent sort of a heavy weapons squad a little bit better than these guys. Darn it. But that's just personal preference. I also like the heavy metal style of 40k a little bit more than this sort of new direction that it's been going recently. I think it's a little bit too clean and crisp. I'm not saying the Dark Eldar models are in any way bad. I think the fact that they redid the entire line in 5th edition is fantastic. But these guys, they have that heavy metal charm that I just love. Look at that. It's ridiculous. I love it. Scourges are also an example of the game evolving around the models. If you look at the crib sheet and all the stuff that these guys can come with, you'll find that a lot of it just doesn't make sense. For example, the options for the Solarite. They can take a Splinter Pistol with a Venom Blade, which is a 2-up poison, a Power Lance, or an Agonizer. And the Agonizer is pretty cheap. It's actually 15 points for that in the Splinter Pistol. It's 10 points cheaper than it would be on an Archon or something. And you can replace the Splinter Pistol with a Blast Pistol for another 15 points. These are things you would expect to find on a close combat unit. The Scourges, however, themselves are only Strength 3, Toughness 3. They only come with 1 attack. Yes, they're Weapon Skill 4. Yes, they have a 4-up, 6-up. But that's not enough for you to want to get in close combat with them. Especially when they have so many different special weapon options. You're not going to be charging with these guys. They get a Hammer of Wrath for using their jump packs, but what's a Strength 3 Hammer of Wrath really going to get you at the end of the day? These guys used to fill multiple roles. Now they really only fill... They can competently fill 2 roles, but if you want to get your points out of them, they're only going to be anti-armor, and maybe anti-Terminator equivalent with the blasters. But if you're trying to get them, to be anti-infantry, there's much better options available now that weren't available in 3rd edition. For example, the Razor Wing Jet Fighter fills the same fast attack slot, or the Venom, just an empty Venom with 2 splinter cannons. But I want to go over all the different weapon options these guys can have, and maybe give you some ideas as to how to use them. Go over the pros and cons of each, and maybe give you some ideas of how to use them effectively in your army. So the first weapon option is, of course, their basic Shard Carbine. These things fire at 18 inches. They're Assault 3, Poison 4 up. Basically a splinter rifle that's been designed for jump units. It's pretty effective. I like it. If I'm shooting at infantry, it's certainly nice to have. But I wouldn't bring a 16-point model just for Assault 3, 18 inches, Poison 4 up. You could bring warriors for half the cost. You have twice as many warriors for half the cost. You throw in an Archon with them, give them a Webway portal. It's actually better, if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for mass poison. Alternatively, since these guys aren't OBSEC anyway, you could just bring the real Space Raiders detachment, throw in a couple of Venoms. You have plenty of fast attack slots to go around. Or, if you really do want OBSEC, buy a few warriors and give them a dedicated transport of a Venom. Then both the transport and the warriors are OBSEC, and they're all slinging poison at a further range than the Scourges are going to get. And you can deep strike them in. So it's a win-win. So would I take them just for the Shard Carbines? No. On the same note, would I take them for the Splinter Cannons? No. If you're bringing jump infantry, there's really not a reason to bring a heavy weapon because these guys are super mobile. Now, if we were playing in 3rd edition, when these guys were pretty much your only heavy weapon option and your only, jump option, then I would say, yeah, you just pick a role for them to be dedicated to. However, in 7th edition, we have Kabbalite Trueborn, which are much better heavy infantry squads. They're cheaper, and they don't have... and what you're giving up in 5 points, because they're 11 points apiece, what you're giving up in 5 points, you can apply towards more special weapons. You park them inside of ruins. They get a 4-up cover save sitting there, 3-up with night fighting. They have 36-inch range on the splinter cannons, and they can just shoot them down range without having to buy all the extraneous dudes. So I wouldn't also, if you're buying a splinter cannon and they jump, you're basically back to the Shard Carbine. You got Salvo 4 at 18 inches. It's not worth it. On a similar note is the Dark Lance. Now, the Dark Lance is an anti-tank weapon, which is what these guys are primarily designed to do. This is sort of the old version of the Dark Lance right there. Not much to look at, but 36-inch range, strength 8, AP 2 Lance. It's not bad. You can take 4 of them for 20 points apiece. It's pretty good. If your heavy attack slots are all filled up with things like Chronos Parasite engines, or Void Raven bombers, or things that are not going to be reliably taking out tanks in specific areas, then it might be something to consider parking them inside of a ruin. Or maybe if you're really pressed for fast attack slots or whatever. Personally, I would rather bring a couple of Ravagers than a couple of units of Scourges with those, just because the Ravagers are a lot more durable. Park them in ruins. With a Night Shield, they get a 3-up save without even having to jank. which is just going to be frustrating for anyone trying to shoot them down. And plus 20 points apiece, you're tacking 80 points on top of an already 80-point squad, and they're going to deep strike in, and they're going to get shot off the Born Turd one. Plus, if you deep strike in a unit that has Dark Lances, it's only going to be snap firing that first turn, which is really the only turn they get to shoot. So Dark Lances, I would say, are a no-go. The Blaster, on the other hand, which is what this guy here has, that is a completely different ball of fish. The Blaster is an assault weapon. It's also 18 inches, like the Shard Carbine. However, it's also strength 8 AP2 Lance, like the Dark Lance. It's basically a sawed-off Dark Lance. That's a very viable build. 4 of those guys with blasters, the 18 inches isn't really going to be a problem because you can deep strike these guys. That's their whole thing, is being jump infantry. They can deep strike. So you're going to get in close. You're going to get next to whatever it is you need to get next to. You have that extra pad of 6 inches, so you could have that, that safety buffer in case you go off the table or something. It's okay. They're also 5 points cheaper a piece, which is great because these guys are going to get primaried like nothing else. You really only get 1, maybe 2 turns out of them before they get shot to pieces. So blasters are a great all-purpose weapon, particularly, let me say, after the FAQ dropped, and jinking now causes passengers to snapfire. We all pretty much knew that's how the rule went. I think people were a little lenient with Dark Eldar players because they felt sorry for us, but now it's in stone, more or less, unless you were just playing with a bunch of chill guys. You're like, yeah, that FAQ is not official, we don't care. My gaming groups tend to use it, and I'm not going to argue the fact because, like I said, frankly, we all knew what direction that was going. It was just good sportsmanship that they allowed it to pass because otherwise a Dark Eldar player would have a very difficult time running any kind of a traditional list. But with Blasterborn, with the jinking rule in place, Blasterborn kind of took a hit. You can't jink in your Venom and have your dudes fire at full ballistic skill. It doesn't work anymore. And relying on that 5-up flicker field is kind of dangerous, especially when you're toting around dudes that are worth, 26 points apiece with a blaster. That's not something I would leave to just a 5-up save, especially if they get blown out of that and then assaulted directly. So, deep striking blasters on the Scourges, they have 4-up, 6-up, plus the Feel No Pain. Probably going to get shot off fairly quickly still. The good news is with the Blaster, you still have the 18-inch range. It's not nearly as bad as the next weapon I'm about to go into, which is the Heat Lance. Heat Lance is only 10 points apiece. So you're only tacking 40 points onto each unit you bring with. Heat Lance is an 18-inch range, strength 6, AP1, Lance, Melta, Assault. It's sort of like a weaker Melta gun. You have a 9-inch Melta range, which with your deep striking, it's a little iffy. It's a little iffy. You can easily roll yourself right out of Melta range. However, I've found that most times it's pretty reliable. You can get into Melta range and you get that first shot off because it's assault. It's not a heavy weapon. As strength 6 is doing it no favors when you're trying to take out like any kind of monstrous creature. It's certainly not going to do that as well as a blaster. But for taking out a Night Titan, for taking out a Baneblade or a Land Raider or something like that, it's more than enough to get the job done. And especially with the AP1, you can, if you get 3 penetrations, you're probably going to get an explode result in there somewhere. Whenever I run the Scourges, the Heat Lance is usually what I take. Unfortunately, I don't have one here now. Usually I just run these guys with the yellow as my Heat Lances, because I don't think Heat Lances were actually modeled in 3rd edition. I'm not positive. I think they weren't. I usually use the Heat Lances. It's a high risk, high reward kind of weapon. That's exactly how Dark Eldar is supposed to be played, in my opinion. If you're not going hard, then you need to go home. Another great weapon that's also 10 points apiece is the Haywire Blaster. Haywire Blaster is sort of the exact opposite of the Heat Lance in terms of strategy. Instead of going for a big, explode roll or a lot of penetrations, what you're doing is you're glancing reliably enemy vehicles that are 2 feet away over the course of successive turns. You're going to whittle them away. It's a weapon of attrition. The way Haywire works, if you're not familiar, you roll to hit, and then instead of rolling to penetrate, what you do is you roll a d6. 1, it does nothing. 2 to 5, it's an automatic glance. And on a 6, it's a pen with no AP value. You're basically whittling down whatever armor you're aiming it at. And that 2-foot range is nice because you can deep strike the Scourges, or you could just, deploy them normally, have them camp out inside of ruins or something, or, jump between line of sight blocking terrain, and have them take shots of opportunity every turn at whatever happens to pass by. The Haywire Blaster is equally as good against a Night Titan or a Land Raider as it is against a Rhino, because it affects all armor the same way. Usually, if I'm going to bring the Haywire Blaster, guys, I bring 2 or 3 units of them just because people think Haywire is a lot more mean than it is. It's really not that mean. You're going to get like 2, maybe 3 glances in a single volley from a single unit of Scourges. You might inconvenience a Rhino with a single unit. You bring 3 of them and they get a chance to focus fire. That's when things get dangerous. But if you just have 1, it's really not that bad unless you're going after a very high priority target. The final weapon option they have is the Shredder. I don't know anyone that runs Shredders. I don't run Shredders. I don't like Shredders. They're 5 points apiece, but what you're getting is potentially lethal. It's 12-inch range, small blast template, strength 6, AP dash. The fact that it's only strength 6, it means it's pretty much like the Heat Lance. But the fact that it's not very good at taking down monstrous creatures, it can double out guardsmen, but it's AP dash, so it's not going to do it nearly as reliably as you would like it to. It has shred, but once again, it's strength 6. So if you're firing it at things that strength 6 is meant to be fired at, you're not going to be. The trouble is not going to be to wound. The trouble is going to be hitting in the first place. Yeah, you have ballistic skill 4. Yeah, it's probably not going to roll on top of your dudes. But the whole point of these Scourges is to get them danger close and fire a whole bunch of shots. 4 grenade templates just isn't cutting it. They come with plasma grenades already. If you really want to throw small blast templates, you have plasma grenades. You can get your 5th man out, because you got to take units of 5 and only 4 can carry heavy weapons. Take your 5th man out and you have him throw a plasma grenade, which is the same as the Haywire's stat against a non-vehicle. That's strength 4, AP 4. So how do I tend to use these guys in terms of strategies? Like I said, if I'm bringing maybe one unit of Scourges, I'll bring the Heat Lances. I need that high risk, high reward. If 120 points gets blown off the table, okay, that happens. But the upshot is that 120 points could take out 300 points of any enemy armor in a single shot. If I'm bringing more than one, usually I'll bring either blasters or Haywire blasters. It depends what I'm going against. If it's like a complete all-comers list, I'll probably have like one of blasters and one of Haywire, just because, I don't know. It could be anything. Usually I won't bring a close combat weapon with these guys. If I actually have extra points left over, which usually I don't. There's more effective ways that I could spend 15 points, but if I had 15 points to blow on some Scourges, I would take the Solarite and give them a Venom Blade. That's really, your optimum solution right there, because it's only 5 points extra for the Venom Blade. You get 2 attacks in close combat, so you're getting yourself both of those bonuses for a 5-point upgrade. And if your Scourges ever end up in close combat, it's usually going to be with something stupid, something to tie it up, like Scarabs or something like that. I've had a single Scourge last in combat against Scarabs for like three whole turns, just no one doing damage to each other. Another thing that sort of is in the ballpark of using them in close combat, but like I said, I still wouldn't recommend it. They do have fleet, so you can use their jump packs and fleet them in. You don't have to walk them and then try to get the charge and save their jump packs for that reroll. You've got the reroll built in there. Remember though that if you have Furious Charge, if it's turn 4 and for your Furious Charge kicks in, you do have that going on. So you get strength 4 that first attack. Also, and this is just an aside, this is one of the few units where I would suggest taking a blast pistol on the Solarite if you decide to take one. Take a Sergeant, because you have to have 5 units, but only 4 of them can take a special weapon. You're always going to have that odd man out unless you're shooting at infantry. So having that guy with the blast pistol, yeah, it's only 6-inch range, but they're jump infantry. Chances are they're going to be pretty close to whatever you're primarying with them anyway. There's a good chance they could be within 6 inches. And that, regardless of what you equip them with, be it Haywire or Heat Lance or other blasters, that blast pistol is going to do something against just about everything in the game. Another thing is, if you're bringing Dark Eldar as allies, and you're looking for some sort of deep striking anti-vehicle, this is going to be your bread and butter. This is going to be fantastic for things like, Sisters of Battle, who need to have behind the lines deep striking anti-armor, like they used to do a lot with drop pods, but they can't do it with drop pods anymore. Well, you bring along some Scourges and they can do pretty much the same thing. You don't have to worry about that 6 inches between models because, first of all, they're deep striking. Second of all, they're jump infantry. They can get out of the way in a single movement phase. One thing to consider when you're taking these guys is the fast attack slot is a very crowded slot for Dark Eldar. You have Scourges, you have the Reavers, you have the Razor Wing Jet Fighter, you have both of your transports occupying a fast attack slot as an option. So when you're choosing what to equip these guys with, compare and contrast. Look at the other things that are occupying the slot. Look at the points values of other things that you could be bringing along instead of them, and try to make sure you're bringing the optimum build for what you're trying to get out of your list. I can't remember how many times I was like, well, I should bring these Blast Scourges. No, I already have Blasterborn. I don't need any more blasters. Or times where I thought about bringing 240 points of Haywire when I was like, oh, wait, I already have 2 Ravagers. I don't really need any more long-range anti-tank. I need that big close-up, one-in-a-lifetime chance of blowing up a Night Titan with one volley of Heat Lances. That actually happened once. Also, something to consider. If you're looking to build, a Corsair's army, or if you're just looking for interesting modifications to your existing Eldar army, as I said, these guys come with fantastic bits. This is just one example that I had. I don't really have a lot of the new models that are assembled as Scourges, but what is it, the Cloud Dancers or whatever, the jump infantry for the Corsairs, these would be absolutely perfect for that, and they're not that expensive. Very easy to mix and match the parts. Tons of bits come with them. So yeah, that's my analysis of the Dark Eldar Scourges. I hope you liked it. I hope it gave you some ideas as to how you might be able to use these guys in your own game. And if you're into these guys right here, these old ones, you can usually find them on eBay for pretty cheap. For whatever reason, I can understand why people wouldn't like them, but I personally like them. They go for pretty cheap because no one really plays with the old Dark Eldar models anymore. They all want these new, really spiffy, pretty ones. But if you're into these old ones, you can usually find them on eBay for pretty cheap. Otherwise, $25 for a box of 5. It's not a terrible deal. And like I said, they all come with plenty of extra bits. I'm sure you'll find tons of uses for extra pairs of wings, or the extra heads just look so cool. But anyway, I will see you later.